Marital and non-marital rape should be punished equally. Millions of women are being sexually abused by their significant others. Many people around the country and the world have been affected by marital rape. Approximately 10 to 14% of married women are raped by their husbands in the United States. Approximately 1/3 of women report having unwanted sex with their partner. Every 92 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted, and that needs to change. In some states, marital rape is still legal. Marital rape continues to be handled in a substantially different way than rape outside of marriage, whether it is charged under a different section of criminal code, registered to a shorter reporting period, held to a different standard of coercion and force, or given a different punishment. Over the years, rape and sexual assault has become a big topic of discussion. There used to be not as much of a discussion about people in these sorts of situations, but recently, because of the Me Too movement, there has been a lot more talk about rape in America. But there still is very little about marital rape. With this change, we can get to the point where people are comfortable going to someone and talking about their situation with marital rape the same way that they are getting to become comfortable talking about other sexual assault or rape situations.
The second step is to isolate the victim. Now, Connor did not come home one day and announce, hey, all this Romeo and Juliet stuff has been great, but I need to move into the next phase where I isolate you and I abuse you. So I need to get you out of this apartment where the neighbors can hear you scream, and out of this city where you have friends and family and coworkers who can see the bruises. Instead, Connor came home one Friday evening, and he told me that he had quit his job that day, his dream job. And he said that he had quit his job because of me, because I had made him feel so safe and loved that he didn't need to prove himself on Wall Street anymore. And he just wanted to get out of this city and away from his abusive, dysfunctional family and move to a tiny town in New England where he could start his life over with me by his side. Now, the last thing I wanted to do was leave New York and my dream job. But I thought you made sacrifices for your soulmate. So I agreed, and I quit my job, and Connor and I left Manhattan together. I had no idea I was falling into crazy love, that I was walking headfirst into a carefully laid physical, financial, and psychological trap. The next step in the domestic violence pattern is to introduce the threat of violence and see how she reacts. And here's where those guns come in. As soon as we moved to New England, that place where Connor was supposed to feel so safe, he bought 3 guns. He kept one in the glove compartment of our car. He kept one under the pillows on our bed. And the third one he kept in his pocket at all times. And he said that he needed those guns because of the trauma he'd experienced as a young boy. He needed them to feel protected. But those guns were really a message for me. And even though he hadn't raised a hand to me, my life was already in grave danger every minute of every day. Connor first physically attacked me 5 days before our wedding. It was 7 a.m. I still had on my nightgown. I was working on my computer trying to finish a freelance writing assignment, and I got frustrated. And Connor used my anger as an excuse to put both of his hands around my neck and to squeeze so tightly that I could not breathe or scream. And he used the chokehold to hit my head repeatedly against the wall. 5 days later, the 10 bruises on my neck had just faded, and I put on my mother's wedding dress, and I married him. Despite what had happened, I was sure we were going to live happily ever after, because I loved him, and he loved me so much. And he was very, very sorry. He had just been really stressed out by the wedding and by becoming a family with me. It was an isolated incident, and he was never going to hurt me again. It happened twice more on the honeymoon. The first time, I was driving to find a secret beach, and I got lost. And he punched me in the side of my head so hard that the other side of my head repeatedly hit the driver's side window. And then a few days later, driving home from our honeymoon, He got frustrated by traffic, and he threw a cold Big Mac in my face. Connor proceeded to beat me once or twice a week for the next 2.5 years of our marriage. I was mistaken in thinking that I was unique and alone in this situation. 1 in 3 American women experiences domestic violence or stalking at some point in her life. And the CDC reports that 15 million children are abused every year. 15 million. So actually, I was in very good company. Back to my question. Why did I stay? The answer is easy. I didn't know he was abusing me. Even though he held those loaded guns to my head, pushed me downstairs, threatened to kill our dog, pulled the key out of the car ignition as I drove down the highway, poured coffee grinds on my head as I dressed for a job interview. I never once thought of myself as a battered wife. Instead, I was a very strong woman in love with a deeply troubled man, and I was the only person on earth who could help Connor face his demons. The other question everybody asks is, why doesn't she just leave? Why didn't I walk out? I could have left any time. To me, this is the saddest and most painful question that people ask, because we victims know something you usually don't. It's incredibly dangerous to leave an abuser, because the final step in the domestic violence pattern is kill her. Over 70% of domestic violence murders happen after the victim has ended the relationship, after she's gotten out, because then the abuser has nothing left to lose. Other outcomes include long-term stalking, even after the abuser remarries, denial of financial resources, and manipulation of the family court system to terrify the victim and her children, who are regularly forced by family court judges to spend unsupervised time with the man who beat their mother. And still we ask, why doesn't she just leave? I was able to leave because of one final sadistic beating that broke through my denial. I realized that the man who I loved so much was going to kill me if I let him. So I broke the silence. I told everyone. The police, my neighbors, my friends and family, total strangers. And I'm here today because you all helped me. We tend to stereotype victims as grisly headlines, self-destructive women, damaged goods. The question, why does she stay, is code for some people for it's her fault for staying. As if victims intentionally choose to fall in love with men intent upon destroying us.
As you can see from the TED Talk, Leslie had a very abusive relationship, but once she was finally able to come out and talk about what was happening, she realized that she was not alone. After she was able to talk about everything, people started telling her about their situations. Just from one person talking about their situation helped others realize that they were going through a very similar thing, and it was able to help many people. If more and more people are able to talk about their struggles, then less people will stay or even end up in abusive situations. The main thing that we need to focus on as a society is being more accepting of people who are in these sorts of situations and become a welcoming place for them to be vulnerable and talk about their situation and let them explain what's going on. According to the TED Talk, most people stay in their abusive situations because they think that they are the only ones that this is happening to. Marital rape and abuse needs to be more publicized in our society and accepted so that people who are in these kinds of situations will understand that they are not alone. And if we accept marital rape and make it not seem like the victim's fault, then the victim won't be afraid to talk about what's going on. After someone is able to come out and explain what is going on to them, then there will be a start to a change in society. There needs to be a change. People want to be happy and safe in their home and want to have a good life. If there is a change to make victims feel comfortable about leaving a bad relationship, then they will be able to start a change for everyone. We need to start with exposing more people to the facts about marital rape and showing them that it is a common thing. Then people in a relationship where they are being abused will see that they are not alone and will be able to come out and talk. Then there needs to be a change in the punishment of persecutors. All rape is equal and all persecutors should be punished in the same way. If we become more accepting about the marital rape situation and not blame it on the victim, then people will be more comfortable coming out and talking about their situation. Then they can help start a change. There needs to be a big change with all kinds of sexual assault relationships, since it is such a new problem that's being discussed. But because of the change that we have seen within the past few years, non-marital rape has been such an exposed conflict that is starting to change. Because of that, I know that there could be a big change to marital rape too. Punishment. Marital and non-marital rape are the same crime and they need to be punished in the same way. There is no excuse for right for sex in marriage or it's fine we're married. There is no excuse for any rape and every abuser should be punished in the same way. If you kill a stranger, you're a murderer. And if you kill your wife, you're still a murderer. There is no difference with rape. Over the time of this presentation, 7 people have been sexually assaulted, and that needs to change.